Hey everybody, here we are. Oh my gosh, who's that?
Hi.
Look, it's Miss Rosine, our second grade teacher at the Dead Seashore. Why are you all darkened?
I have mud all over me.
Mud? Why'd you put
Yes.
mud on yourself?
It's supposed to soothe your skin.
Where's it from?
Down here by the Dead Sea.
Down here. Well, that's awesome. Yeah, we had a morning float. It's our last little time in Jordan, and we're going off to back to Jerusalem today. So I'm gonna get a little. Yep. See ya. Thanks for showing us your mud.
Oh, no problem.
So let's see. I'll walk backwards here a little bit. Don't mean to make people dizzy, but so we're in Jordan. We're on the east shore of the Dead Sea. Over there is Israel on the far shore, and I have not done my morning float yet, but that is coming up. As long as I don't chat for over an hour, I'll have time. So I'm walking backwards here. So across the way from the Dead Sea, I don't know if you can see it. I'm looking for a flat mountain over there, but Masada, you maybe have heard of Masada. We did not go there. That's a place where the Israel today kind of idolizes the people for their courage for standing out against the Roman siege. Was it when they destroyed the temple around 70 AD? But rather than surrender to the Romans, they just holed up in Masada and accepted death. So anyway, that's good, right? We'll see. I'm a little away from the maddening crowd. Whoa, I've had the chartreuse hoodie. Whoa. The chartreuse hoodie on. A little cloudy today. We've had awful weather the first, 5-6 days, and then it got really, good. And then today it's not bad though. It's just dripping a little gray. So I wanted to share a few things with you. So it's the Dead Sea. I'm at the lowest point below sea level. I'm lower than you for sure, but it's the lowest point below sea level in the world. They call this the Rift Valley, an ancient rift, fault line, which we hear about. I don't know if that earthquake through Turkey and Syria that killed so many people, over 30,000 now, if that was part of the Rift Valley fault line or what. So we've kept them in prayer this week. I'm sure you have as well. So this is the Dead Sea. So the Jordan River comes out of the mountains, and what they call the Golan Heights used to belong to Syria, and Israel took it in 67 after they won that war. And so the river flows out of the mountains. Maybe you've heard of Mount Hermon from the Bible. Flows out of there and makes a regular river, and then it flows into the Sea of Galilee, the north point, and just to the right of that is kind of where all the holy sites are, Capernaum and the loaves and fishes and all that. And then out of the south end is Sea of Galilee, and the Sea of Galilee is about 30 miles around, so calling it a sea is probably not, it's a lake, big lake. And then it flows down about 60, 70 miles, but probably if you count every twist and turn, it's probably like 150 miles, because it winds its way a lot. And it ends up here, and then it goes nowhere. That's why it's so salty, and it's shrinking. There's a project that I don't know if it'll ever happen or not, but they're talking about piping water from the Red Sea, which is south of here, into the Dead Sea to keep it from just drying up. But it's kind of sad. It's a privilege to come here while it's still here. But it's a great parable. I remember my friend Sue used to share this in teaching confirmation class at Newman when we were there. So it's kind of the story of two seas, Sea of Galilee and the Dead Sea. And basically, so water flows into the Sea of Galilee, and then it flows out of the Sea of Galilee. And that's like how we should live our lives. We receive the love of God, and we pour out love for others. We receive blessing, we give blessing. What we receive, we give. What's that line from Apostles? What we have received with no cost, we give with no cost. So it's beautiful. It's a healthy, and as a result, that's a healthy lake. There's a lot of fish in it. It's clean. It's a vibrant place. It provides drinking water for the whole country. They have great desalination plants as well from the Mediterranean Sea. But it's their main farming. That's why the Jordan River is just kind of a trickle now, because they really tap the water coming out of the Sea of Galilee for farming and everything. And then the water comes here, and it doesn't go anywhere. So it's like it just takes, it just receives, but it doesn't give, and it's dead, you know. So it's a great parable. So it's like if you feel like you're dead spiritually, you know, maybe well, one, there's two things. Maybe you're not in touch with the fact that you're blessed by God, that God loves you. And that's a tough thing for a lot of people if they don't know a lot of love in their lives otherwise. But there's that. And then the second thing is you got to give it away. What you received, you got to give away. And then you're kind of you're living in communion with Christ and according to Christ's pattern of life. And that brings joy to us. That brings community and love and life. But you know, if you don't have that giving, if you just receive, then you're dead. There's nothing in here that's alive. It's just the Dead Sea. It's a good name for it. I guess it's not, Dead Sea is never mentioned in the Bible. They say maybe our guide said there's some other words that probably meant the Dead Sea, but didn't call it the Dead Sea. I don't know. So anyway, that's where I am now. Jordan has got a lot of good holy sites. I like to come to Jordan with these pilgrimages. Partly it's a whole different culture than Israel. It's really just an Arab nation. And there's not a lot of there's some tribal tensions occasionally, but there isn't a lot of conflict here. The Christians are a small minority, but really honored, and people don't discriminate against them. In fact, you know, it makes sense. Their weekend is Friday, Saturday, because that's the big for Muslims. Friday is the big day of prayer, and then the following Saturday. So Sunday's a day of work, but if you're a Christian, if you work for the government anyway, they give you 3 hours on Sunday morning off, just extra, so you can go to church. Yeah, you know, isn't that great? I mean, it's not a Christian nation, but they see that, and that's really neat example. It seems like they know how to get along better here than other places. So we came here first. The first place we went, we crossed the border. We went down up that way, so where the Jordan River comes into the Dead Sea, that's where they think, and that's where all the ancient churches, where the ancient monasteries that wanted to be close to where Christ was baptized and where the baptizer was doing his ministry, that they all went there. It's the lower end of the Sea of Galilee, across the river. So Bethany beyond the Jordan. I think that says that in the Gospel of John. So beyond the Jordan, East Bank. So that's why I like to come here. They do have a site in Israel on the West Bank where you can, and if we didn't cross the border, we'd certainly go there, but I like to give Jordan its due. I think it's biblically attested, and that's where all the ancient churches are. It's on the east bank of the Jordan River. So it's kind of neat. And again, Jordan gives all this land to the churches. They say you can build a church. I think they might even subsidize the building of churches. So there's a bunch of churches down there. Some very, very old. Some being renovated. And on the way, so we had this kind of quarter mile, half mile walk to the Jordan from where we parked our bus. And on the way, I read about John the Baptist and camel's hair and a leather belt around his waist and eating locusts and honey and proclaiming a baptism for the forgiveness of sins. And so we kind of had a sense of where he lived and where he did his ministry and the landscape. You know, we saw the same mountain ridges that he saw. We actually saw a cave in a mountain that tradition says that he lived in. Also across the Dead Sea, maybe you've heard of the Dead Sea Scrolls or Qumran. Across and then up a little bit upshore toward the north is where they found the Dead Sea Scrolls in a place called Qumran. I thought maybe John the Baptist was part of that community too. So here comes Ron and Rosemary. Did you have a good float? Yeah? Did you get in?
Up to my calves.
You didn't float? Okay. Did you?
No.
Okay.
I don't even own a swimming suit.
Oh, I see. All right. Well, all right. Good you get on.
Yeah,
I'm just recording here. So, yeah.
Okay.
That's great. Yeah, thanks. Sorry.
I like to collect rocks. So
You do?
it's a really pretty one.
Nice. Cool. All right. So we went on that part of the Jordan River. We went to the place where actually Christ was baptized, and that was pretty important for me. I've been to the baptism site many times, but I haven't been to that site. We've kind of forked left to a different place where you can renew your vows. And to me, the baptism site of Jesus, the baptism of Jesus is kind of my patron feast for for my priesthood. I like the baptism of Jesus. That you're my beloved Son, in whom I take great delight. And Father Hegel, when he directed my preordination retreat, made me just meditate on those different baptism stories over and over and over and over again. He wanted me to go forward toward my ordination with an identity like Jesus had before his ministry, that he was loved by God and blessed by God and empowered by God to go forth and do God's work. And so to see, it was kind of cordoned off. It's this thing about when you're on pilgrimage, you don't want to be spiritually greedy, but it's easy to. You want to touch the holy places, and if they're cordoned off, maybe, I can go there anyway. Or it says, don't take any rocks from here. Well, I'm going to take one anyway. Well, it's not really the spirit of a pilgrim. And so it was cordoned off. One of the ropes was kind of down on the ground, like you could go. But I really wanted to stand. I didn't do it. So I think it was good that I didn't succumb to spiritual greed. But I wanted to jump down there and just stand in that little area where they said Christ was baptized. And just to hear those words, you are my beloved Son, but you can hear that. I can hear that when I get back home to Eau Claire. So not a big deal. But seeing it was great. I'd never seen it before. And there were mosaics of all the popes that had visited there, John Paul, Benedict, and Francis. So that was great. So then at that point, we read the scripture of Christ being baptized, okay? And then we made it all the way to the Jordan River, where we renewed our baptismal promises. People took off their shoes, walked into the Jordan. Across the way was the Israeli site, and their people were more, I don't know if evangelical or what, but they wore the white gowns, and they went in and they were being immersed. And it was nice. People enjoyed seeing that too. We were a little more subdued. We just kind of walked in up to our knees and enjoyed being in the water. And then we came up to this font that has the Jordan River water, and I read the account from the Easter Vigil epistle from Romans. In our baptism, we died with Christ that we might live with him. So not just the historical fact of baptism, but what it really means, that we become a new creation. So John preached baptism for the forgiveness of sins, and Christians have taken baptism to mean that, but also a dying to an old self and a rising to a new self. Thanks to St. Paul and the way that epistle that he wrote. We try to, as I mentioned, our sprinkling rites. I'm going to bring some Jordan water home. If it doesn't bust in my suitcase and freeze up, we'll add a little of the Jordan water to each of the successive baptisms we have coming up in the sprinkling rites. You get to be touched with some of that water yourself. But become a new creation. So I think of it as orienting yourself. It's not about just me and my life and getting secure myself and getting as much for myself as I can, but I know that I have everything from God and new life and redemption and heading to be in communion with God forever in heaven and all his people, and so I should, as St. Paul says in that epistle, not live for himself or not live for myself, but live for God. And I love it, and it's inspiring, and every day I fail. But it was good to say, again at the banks of the Jordan River, to renew that commitment. That's who I want to be. So that was a great day. The next day we went up to Mount Nebo, and that's where Moses went before he died. He saw the promised land from Mount Nebo. It's just up there above us. And I preached. I had that one. Father Bill wasn't feeling so good, so this is Karl Rahner and Ronald Rollheiser. They talked about how all of our lives are like unfinished symphonies. That there's not. So this feeling of I think like you can empathize with Moses after all he'd been through, not being allowed to be enter into the promised land, but you can go no further. And in this life we don't have like perfect fulfillment. We have infinite desires in a finite world and finite bodies, I think. And once we realize that, I think there's some peace in that. That the goal in life isn't to satisfy all my desires, but to live in communion with the eternal, with God. So we celebrated that beautiful view. They have a beautiful cross there with a serpent around the cross, kind of like that American Medical Association symbol, the snake around the cross. So Jesus says, just as Moses lifted up the serpent in the desert, so must the Son of Man be lifted up. and draw all people to himself, you know. So that's neat. It's scripture kind of, it's like Moses held up the serpent. When they saw the serpent, then they were healed from their serpent bites. And Jesus heals us from the violence and sin of the world by looking at him crucified and how he keeps loving us despite the pain that we had doled out to him, you know. Pretty deep, I think, and I probably didn't articulate it too well, because I'm still grappling to embrace it, probably, you know. So what else we got going here? Then we went to Mukaver, which is like my favorite pilgrim site because nobody's there. We were the only group there. You park, it's pretty remote. Go down these steep steps. Probably 2/3 of our pilgrims made the climb, 1/3 stayed back and just beheld this flat top mountain where there had been a Herodian King Herod palace built on it, and where John the Baptist was imprisoned and beheaded. So a pretty stark place. And you go down and you walk, I don't know if it's, I don't think it's fully a half mile up. Maybe it's a good quarter mile, I think. And then got a lot of cough now. If you can hear that coughing over there, we've had a lot of coughers. It's too bad. And I'm sort of on the edge myself. I didn't shave, can you tell? Because when you shave before you go to the Dead Sea, if you get any water splashes on it, it stings like crazy. So I told all the guys not to shave. Gals too, I guess, if they do that. And so anyway, this baptism site, then we read the grisly account of John the Baptist's martyrdom, and Herodias's, you know, John the Baptist told her and her husband Herod Antipas that their marriage was illegal because he married his brother's wife, and she didn't like being accused of that, so she wanted to kill him, but Herod kind of liked them, didn't want to do that. And then Salome, I don't know where Salome, which gospel Salome's mentioned it, because it wasn't in the account I read. Here's my cough. So she does this dance, and Herod makes this extravagant promise, you know, to give her anything she asked for, even half his kingdom. And she says, Mom, what should I ask for? And the mom says the head of John the Baptist on the platter. Just grisly. And then they do it, and they bring out his head on a platter, and everybody's happy. So anyway, we read that account and asked for a similar courage that John the Baptist had. Here come some more pilgrims. Hi, Mary. So that's kind of what we did. And then yesterday we went to Petra, one of the new wonders of the world. I didn't emphasize the biblical stuff there too much. There's no like spots, but that's kind of the area like where Moses, actually the city right next to Petra is called the Valley of Moses. You know, in the Exodus from Egypt to the Promised Land, you know, that part of the world is there. So kind of neat. So that's what we've done in Jordan. And we're going to cross back into Israel today, have a little free time, visit a monastery, have a farewell dinner, check into a hotel, and check out at like 1 a.m. to get over to the airport, and then we're going to fly back. I will, what did I hear? The other thing, I forget where I stopped off on the updates last time, but I'll have, we had a nice Sunday Mass. Instead of going to a shrine, we went to the Rosary Sisters Church, where the Filipino community worships in English, so we could have a English Mass there. It was awesome. Everyone loved it. We went there. They were so friendly to us. We were a little late, and I thought, oh, they're going to be mad, you know, resent they were late, holding them up a little bit. And boy, they sure didn't seem to, you know. And then I walk in, and the priest who was presiding was a priest who I had breakfast and dinner with often during my sabbatical years. He was a scholar in residence over at Tantur, where I was, and I'm like, Eric, and he's like, Tom. I'm like, yeah. You know, it's like, what a grace, what a joy that was. And he welcomed us, and it was nice. And then after Mass, they had and I know because I went to Mass there once when I was on sabbatical, that's why I knew about it. And they always have a lot of hospitality and good stuff, just like over at St. James, right? And we had wonton soup with shrimp and pork and the wonton noodles, and it was just great because we didn't really have lunch that day. Anyway, it's just a happy, knee pain. Okay. So that was just really great. Okay, well, I think that's it. I heard a few, sadly, we had a parishioner who died. I heard Susan Deutsch. And apparently that has to be on Monday, and I feel like I won't be able to meet with the family. So Father Karate, thank you for he's going to preside over that funeral, and then I thank Christine and Ann and Patrice at the office, as well as Mary and Beth and Kelly and any extra work they had to do while I was gone. I appreciate it so much. It's really important to come over here. It's really great for the pilgrims. It's really great for the people that work for us. They need the Christian community is pretty fragile over here, and so to have a Christian tour company and guides that we can support is really great. So, and the Italian dinner's coming up Sunday. Hope to be awake for that, but I guess we got 30 people going. Beth's fine. She goes, "I'd love to cook for 30. That's no problem at all." We could have had 50, but so that's all right. What else? I don't think there's too much else, so maybe I'll call it a day. Let you see the Dead Sea here a little bit. The other seas, except for the Sea of Galilee, they say if you want to get the names of the seas, it's the Med, Red, and Dead. Mediterranean, Red Sea, and Dead Sea. I thought that's kind of neat. Oh, I just show you this. There's some people floating out there. See it? You seriously could. I thought about it, but I didn't want to take the risk of ruining my phone. You can. I could walk in there with my phone, and then once the water's up to my waist, sit in the water and just hold my phone up here. I thought of doing the chat while floating, and I thought, no, I better not. But it's possible. It would have been fun, right? So, anyway, there's someone floating. See how their whole bodies up there? They're not even trying. I think that's Mary from our trip. Anyway, God bless you. I'll let you take in the scene a little bit. And remember, don't be like the Dead Sea. Don't just take. Find a way to give with a spirit of love and peace in your heart. We are pilgrims on a journey. We are travelers on the road. We are here to help each other walk the mile and bear the load. God bless you.